Okay, I met a few new people. You know, when I say I met a few new people, you always know what I'm talking about, right? It just means I found someone's channel who I like. So, but it's a very strange thing. It's something I have not experienced in a few years, and I wanted to talk about that for a second before I start the video. So I've been finding all these regular people, just real people, and they're not mainstream. They're not looking to get mainstream. They're not looking to get rich. Nothing like that. They don't have an extraordinary amount of subscribers or anybody viewing their channel or anything like that. So YouTube's now feeding them to me, which I think is very strange because they were hidden from me for a long time. And I mean every field, everybody was hidden from me. All of a sudden, the real doctors are coming out. You know, the ones that have been losing their jobs or quitting, and nurses and doctors. All these people are now being fed to me that are real people. And then this guy that I'm about to play right now, he was a car guy. He was doing car YouTube channels. Changed his whole experience about it, watching what's going down right now. All this, it's so important. That's why I feel so important that I show you guys the system before we get taken down all these roads. And this guy's noticing it. The other girl, Squirrel Vibes or Squirrel Tribe, she's noticing it all. I don't know what she did before. I'm still getting to know her, but I'm getting fed these real people now. Over the years, I should say back in the day, I used to be able to go online and, let's say, intestinal stuff, to know how to do a liver cleanse or intestinal cleanse safely, good. They turn you on to the right books and turn you on to other doctors that have experience with it, all this kind of thing, and you could do some research. But then I noticed it all went away. It all went away. I don't know, around the time that Trump got in, all that shit all went away. And we were not allowed. Maybe it was earlier. Maybe it was about mid-Obama or something. But it just got worse with Trump. And now all of a sudden, after all these years, here I'm being fed regular, normal, real people again. And I'm noticing it because I'm always complaining about that. Where's everybody? Where are all the fucking real people, you know? And then when you go looking for stuff, like I just went a few months back, went looking for just the one I was just talking about, for information on people who were doing liver cleanses and playing with their liver stones, which are totally disgusting and gross and everything like that. But we should know about them. We should know how it all works, or at least to the best of our ability at this moment, we should know how it works. And no one cares. But this guy, anyways, I'll play him for a few minutes, and then I'm going to look around for a few videos that I want to play.
Hello and good afternoon. I am doing my very best today to look
and I got copyright strikes on all those moon videos that I did yesterday, so I'm thinking about running those through again today. I'm gonna see what happens.
a fisherman. This is Jeff Buys Cars. This is a car channel, but today we are talking about boats. It's all interconnected. Everything that's going on with the boats and with the cars is all interconnected, so I think it's important and I think it belongs here on the channel. Followers will know that I recently took a trip to Holy Island in Northumberland, up in the northeast of the country, right on the border of Scotland. And whilst I was on Holy Island, I was made aware of an issue that's going on with their fishing industry, and I've been compelled to make a video. I think this is quite important. I think it brings up some very important and...
I've only watched about 6 of this guy's videos. He just started coming on this afternoon. He's got 36,000 subscribers, and he's blowing my fucking mind with the research that he's doing and the information that he's trying to share with everyone. He's in England somewhere, or in Britain somewhere. Let's see. Internet.
Interesting
I
things.
Play. Internet's been fucked up.
I think I should have turned off my WhatsApp notifications because that's a lady messaging me about a bike. Bikes, cars, boats, whatever next. Planes, trains and automobiles. But all of these things are interconnected. If you've seen my Oxford video and my ULEZ video, what's going on in Northumberland and Holy Island is very much in the same vein. So I've got a little script. I'm going to read from it and I'm going to add things in as and when I go. So sit yourself down and get ready for a long one, because this one is it's complex. Now, Holy Island is a tidal island off the northeast coast of England in Northumberland. It's a stone's throw from the Scottish border, effectively on the top right-hand side of England if you're looking at a map. Now, its history dates back to the 6th century, so that's recorded history, where the famous Lindisfarne Castle was built in 1550 AD, 500 years ago? Basically, the island's really old and has been inhabited by small numbers of humans for well, probably 1,000 years, give or take. We can safely assume that being an island and having a history that dates back to, the 6th century, humans have.
I'm just going to explain that, a few things about these videos. These videos right here, I'm on the Michael Oziak channel for a minute, but all these moon videos, I'm purposely getting these half moons, quarter moons, 3/4 moons, because I'm looking at the moon's timelines. And if I'm still standing at the end of the week, then I'll try to get into doing them on paper, but I'm going to have to delete all those other videos I did on the Miguel Everyone channel now that I got copyright strikes. So I'm going to try some other music. I didn't expect it with that one because that was I don't know, maybe because they're cover bands, I don't know. So anyway, we're going to go in on the moon, extract the EMNC from all these moon videos that I have on the Michael Oziak channel. I'm going to do that over the next week or two so I can add them to the next series, which I'm still deciding on what I'm going to call it, what I'm going to name it, because like I said, I keep meeting all these really good people. If this guy here gets a hold of this fucking information that I'm trying to show all of you, he's going to blow it away. He's going to take it to a whole new level. And then if that other girl, Squirrel Tribe, if she can calm down for 10 minutes and go look at what it is I'm showing you guys, she's going to take right off with this. And then it'll be out to millions. Millions of people have their eyes on it. Yeah, these 3 videos here I was doing, they're only 3/4 moons, but I can show you how the timelines are working, how the two false creators / creators timelines are running in the moon. And that cropping tool that you see me using, that cardboard cropping tool, it's a great way to show you how it's working. And just cut off each image as it's coming through, and you'll see that as the moon's coming around in our sky in a clockwise rotation, with that crescent that you're always seeing, that unfortunately everybody's been fooled into, lied to, I don't know what to call it anymore. But I mean, most of the shit is so ridiculous that, I don't know who to be more upset with, 7.8 billion zombies, it seems to me, I should be more upset with. Because we're the ones that believed it all along. We were just pretending to believe this nonsense. I mean, when we should have been listening to this fucking guy, instead we were listening to mainstream. I don't know this guy's name or nothing yet, but he's really good.
Have been fishing from Holy Island from pretty much the very first moment that someone walked onto the island and thought, I really like it here, it's really nice, I'll stay, but I am a bit hungry. So they've been fishing off Holy Island like forever. So what did fishing look like then, and what does it look like now? Well, there's a really good website called islandarchives.com, and it says just before World War II, the islanders were catching the same species that were listed in the monastic accounts from the medieval times, okay? So that means fishing hadn't changed in hundreds of years prior to World War II. And records even show that in 1626, 27 fishermen lived on the island, and in the late 18th century, there were between 10 and 12 herring boats. So 11. No, I'm joking. So we're talking small scale, right? In the 18th century, things carry on pretty much the same. Fishing is mostly seasonal. The fishermen are looking for cod and haddock between March and October, and they're fishing on long lines. This is interesting. The fishermen knew where to put the gear by sight, lining up with landmarks and using locations that had been passed down for generations. So there's a heritage of fishing on the island, and the fishermen know where to fish because it's been fished for years by their fathers, forefathers, grandfathers, all of that. Late in the summer, between June and September, they'd catch herring in larger nets, and all of this was done from relatively small fishing boats, such as Robert Lilburn's Children's Friend at 53.3 foot and Thrive at 57.4 foot. Remember those sizes. I'm going to come back to that in a minute, and there's a test at the end. I'm joking. So things change in the 19th century. The whole world, obviously, is enjoying the Industrial Revolution, which kind of started in Dudley, there or thereabouts. And all of the Northumbrian coastline sees an increase in fishing activity.
Which is how they got the last generations to put all the heavy metals and minerals up into the sky. Today they use jets to lay out the heavy metals and minerals that they drop all over the sky. They're using that to control a lot of things. There's a lot of control in that. That's the technology that I'm trying to explain to you guys that we used to have. I'm trying to show it to you. We used to have that technology. We knew about it. We knew how to use it. We still do, but like I keep saying, it's a very small few. Uh, and I don't want to use any gimmick wording terminology to explain it to you. I just want to be real with you. It's the same technology that we were using to cut those 350-ton stones out of the side of the mountain, move them for long distances. It's that technology. Today we call it weather. They fooled us. They fucked us, man. So here's this guy. He's noticing some of it. He's seeing some of it. He sees all the shit here on the ground going down. He's going to talk about the Industrial Revolution, and I have to keep stopping the video whenever these guys are saying something. He's a good guy, obviously. He's a positive person. He's not trying to be negative, and neither am I. I'm trying to show you guys something that's a positive thing. If everyone goes out and looks at what I'm trying to show you, you'll all see it. And then when you do, yes, you're going to feel a little bit fucking silly, but who cares? Who gives a fuck? It's too big to keep ignoring.
Activity. Holy Island now has 27 5-man herring keel boats and about 80 fishermen, supported by casual half-share men, or what we would probably call today 0 hours contract workers. So by the early 1900s, the herring industry has then pretty much collapsed, which is blamed on steam trawlers which were destroying the herring spawning grounds. The small sailing keelboats couldn't keep up and they couldn't compete with the steam drifters, and famously the herring boats were then turned upside down to be used as sheds, basically, and you can see those on the island. Today, the fishing industry on Holy Island can hardly be called an industry, okay? We're talking 5 or 6 fishing boats working from a small harbour, fishing in the exact same way that Holy Island has been fished for hundreds of years. Now, I posted in one of the Holy Island groups saying I was planning on making this video, and I was put in touch with a fisherman called Jordan. And I phoned him earlier on today and we had a little chat. So he works on a fishing boat from Holy Island. They catch mostly lobster and crab. There's no long lining from what Jordan tells me. I thought there was still long lining fish. No, that's not going on anymore. Lobster and crab in pots, okay? On a really good day in the summer, he says they might catch 400 lobster. And I was thinking, that is a lot. But to get 400 lobster, he tells me, they're probably putting back 7,000 to 10,000 animals. So with lobster fishing, there's a certain size that you're allowed to catch. You can't put pregnant females in your pot. They have to go back in, so the breeding continues. So the populations thrive even though you're catching the lobster. So from a fisherman's point of view, it's better than ever. The fishing grounds that they're fishing from Holy Island on a small scale are better than ever, healthier than ever, and therefore sustainable. That is the very definition of sustainable fishing. Fishing in a way that allows you to keep doing it year after year, looking after your stocks, looking after the animals, looking after the oceans. Proper little fishing industry, that is the way to fish. So, we're not talking about some gigantic boomtown industry that sprang from humble roots and then decimated all in its path, are we? Holy Island fishing started as a small-scale operation. It boomed just slightly with the net fishing and the herring, and now it's retracted back to the small-scale operation that it kind of always ever was, okay? You could probably say that it's an artisanal fishery. Artisanal. You've got to be careful saying that word. But it's like a small artisan fishery, you know? We're not talking huge-scale trawlers. We're talking small, carefully, well-managed fish stocks done by people with passion and love. So the analogy that I'm going to use, another word you have to be careful saying, is take your artisan baker who might bake 5 or 10 loaves of bread on a morning, and then there's a queue to get them, and if you don't get that loaf of bread, you're out, you're stuck. But all of this is taking place within a stone's throw of Tesco, who are selling 20,000 loaves of bread in a day. That's the comparison that we're looking at here. Now, Holy Island has and always has had a healthy seal population, fish, seals and all that. The fishermen don't catch so many fish that the seals suffer. I wrote this last night before I spoke to Jordan. The fishermen don't really catch fish, so the seals are fine. And the seals don't go for the lobster, so the fishermen are fine. So we've got equilibrium. We've got this sort of lovely balance between man and nature, and not taking too much and not impacting each other, and a sort of live and let live thing going on Holy Island. Sounds great. I want to go up there and be a fisherman. If anything, the seals are doing even better because they track the seal numbers on Farne Islands, which is not.
I'm trying to get to some videos that I haven't done and I haven't looked in it yet. I've been looking in on all these. It's a really good one though. Let me see how good it is. Yeah, I did do it. Oh, come on. Something's going wrong with all the videos. With the internet.
Nowhere to fish because it's been fished for years by their fathers, forefathers, grandfathers, all of that.
Alright, let me come forward.
Want to go down. They want to shut down what is effectively an artisanal fishery. Let me demonstrate my point, right? Picture coming up. This is the Atlantic Dawn. It was owned by Irish businessman and multimillionaire Kevin McHugh. Interesting character. It's 144 metres long. Do you remember what I said about the boats in the old days? What were they? 53 metres? No, 53 foot. Okay. This new one, Atlantic Dawn, 144 metres long. It's 14,000 tonnes of fish killing machine. It's crewed by 63 men. Remember, at the peak, there were 27 fishermen on Holy Island. There's 63 on this boat. It's powered by two almost 10,000 horsepower diesel engines. It can do 20 miles an hour. It can track fish down from a distance. And at full pelt, it can process and freeze 400 tons of fish every 24 hours, right? We were talking about 400 lobsters in 24 hours. This is 400 tons. It can freeze 7,000 tons of fish and stay at sea for 5 weeks at a time. Now, this is where we start to sort of bring it back to the point about politics and the connection between the fisheries and the environment, okay? The Atlantic Dawn was meant to be registered in Ireland, but it was so big, the EU wouldn't give it a licence to fish. So the Irish government registered it as a merchant vessel and waved it out the harbour instead. Nothing like a bit of window dressing. Now, the arrival of this new ship meant that the Irish trawler fishing fleet was now over its allowed capacity, the amount it's allowed to fish. So they had to get rid of another ship, which was called...
What the fuck? Yeah, everything, man. Everything keeps shutting down. It's really weird. Very weird. Check all my connections.
All of this is going on under the eye of the Irish government. The Irish government were also involved in some of the funding to help pay for the Atlantic Dawn, and they also hailed it as like a huge success for Irish industry, the fact that this ship was being built. So they did all that before checking the quotas and the capacities of their own shipping industry. The mind just boggles, but it gets better. The ships were all still owned by McHugh, right? And he was bound by EU regulations on fishing quotas, which meant although it was registered as a merchant ship, and although the Veronica was registered in Panama, he couldn't actually use the Atlantic Dawn to its full potential in European waters. So he did what anyone with no morals and no respect for the people or the environment would have done.
Okay, I'm going to try to run some of these videos. So this is Candace Owens series for Candace Owens, part 20. I don't think I've been on this one yet. This is a mineral street running through the sky that I put a green filter on the camera outside. There's no filter on this camera. I don't know that I don't think I'll even put one on. I'm just kind of telling you what to look for. So you'll see the imagery all in there. You can digitally collect the EMNC with your eyes from the mineral streets. Is kind of what I'm showing you here. And these mineral streets are flowing out, and you can see all the imagery that's in the sky all around us all the time, and we can all see it.
he struck a deal with the dictator president of poverty-stricken Mauritania so he could pillage their fish stocks for 9 months of the year and go back to Irish waters for the other 3 months, avoiding all of the laws and regulations that had been put in place to protect the fish stocks. Right, if you think I've got sidetracked, stay with me. Next up, there was a coup in Mauritania, and McHugh and his huge fishing boat were booted out. Basically, they said, enough's enough, you're not fishing our waters anymore. Now, ironically, McHugh, who killed more fish than pretty much anyone, he was killed by variant CJD, otherwise known as mad cow disease. I've never known of anyone or read about anyone that died from that, but he did, killed all the fish and died from mad cow disease. After he died, his gigantic ship, the Atlantic Dawn, was sold to a Dutch consortium who changed the name. Doesn't matter, it's just, moving the deck chairs around. Under the new name, his huge ship was caught fishing in Irish waters doing a bit of illegal grading. Now, illegal grading is selecting the largest fish that you actually want to keep and chucking the rest back over the edge. But this isn't like what Jordan and his 3-man crew do on Holy Island, where they look at the lobster and like, oh no, you're all right, you're pregnant, you can go back in. And it's back in within, seconds, half a second, and it's alive, and it carries on to live its life. This is on an industrial scale, and all the fish are going back in dead. Grading, it's illegal, and it's against EU regulations. So the skipper, the captain, was fined, no fishing gear was confiscated, and the vessel continued to operate. Now, in 2020, our, wonderful 400-ton-a-day fishing vessel was actually reported to be fishing off the coast of Scotland, right, where it shouldn't have been. It was part of an EU and Russian fleet of super trawlers, one of those words. I'll do a little bit more on that in a minute. And this was at a time when the UK fishing fleet, were effectively grounded due to coronavirus. And they were also fishing in an area designated a special conservation area by the Scottish government. So, the biggest fishing vessel in the world was secretly catching fish not a million miles away from Northumberland, where the government are trying to ban 5 small fishing boats from leaving the harbour. I told you we'd get back to the point, right? Actually, though, there was a deliberate error in what I just said, because the Atlantic Dawn isn't the largest fishing vessel in the world, it's the largest trawler in the world, but the biggest fishing vessel in the world is the Russian ship Vladivostok 2000, which is a factory ship, right? And that was twice the length of the Atlantic Dawn and almost as big as an aircraft carrier. So if you like animals, do a little bit of research on what a super trawler is and what it does, and how a factory ship operates and what that does, and you won't be eating fish for a very, very long time. I should also add that part of what the government is trying to do with Holy Island is they want to ban dredging and trawling, neither of which are happening near Holy Island or being done by the fleet of Holy Island. So it's the equivalent of me basically saying, in the new year, I'd like to quit smoking, and having a big fanfare and a big party and everybody congratulating me. I've never smoked in my life. It's exactly that. It's window dressing and it's greenwashing. So when it comes to the fishing fleet of Holy Island, it is a drop in the ocean. But it's not the size of the drop that counts. It's that there are much bigger problems with the fishing industry and with fish stocks and with oceans. There's so much more that you could do if you want to protect animals and you want to protect fishing stocks and you want to look after people. There's so much more you can do than banning 5 or 6 ships from a tiny harbour in Northumberland. Tell me, humour me for a moment, what kind of fish do you want to eat? Do you want to eat a lobster pulled up by a 5th generation fisherman who caught it in the exact same place his ancestors caught fish, caught it in the exact same way, and do you want to enjoy it in a restaurant that is within spitting distance of where the lobster was pulled out of the ocean? Or would you like to eat a tin of tuna caught in a net 240 metres wide and 160 metres deep, a net that was dragged for miles through the sea, that in places ruined the sand and in the process killed a ridiculous amount of other species that they weren't looking to catch at the time, only for the whole catch to then get moved to a factory ship, eventually returned to the shore after I don't know how long, put on all manner of
The next video I'm going to play for him that I got turned on, that was the first video I heard of him. He's talking about the smart cities already being brought to his area as well. So that's what I was just saying in earlier videos. It's all over the earth. It's every country. But these guys got nailed already with it, and then they're going to be full force by December of 23. So I'll let him tell you though, because he's better. He knows it all.
Lorries and to go through all manner of factories to turn that majestic, freely swimming fish into a few pathetic flakes of low-grade tuna to put on your sandwich at the lowest possible cost. I know which one I'd rather choose. We do need to protect the oceans, no doubt, and we do need to look after fish stocks. But proposing to shut down tiny, traditional, ancient fishing ports when there's so many gigantic, harmful, and so obvious places to start elsewhere in the fishing industry is quite simply insanity. I've got all my links here, and I might even post up it's a 2,000 word essay that I've just read basically, but I quite like doing it this way because I can add things that I think of as and when. So again, you know, you might think, oh, this is a strange thing for Jeff to be making a video on, but it's all part of these weird agendas and these weird initiatives that are being announced. And just like the Oxford traffic filter scheme and just like the ULEZ expansion, to the layperson, to you...
Right, so here I am wasting all this time trying to make series to these people who I'm calling out. These are the people that I'm going to have to try making series to now. I'm going to have to find out this guy's name. His name of his channel is... Let's see. Shit. Jeff Buys Cars. GeoffBuysCars. Jeff. Anyways, he's really good. And you know what? Let's just go back. Let's see if I can find this other video now.
More people are being killed on smart motorways, but the way the data is presented shows that that's a good thing. They don't just...
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser powers through...
Okay, he says his name in this one too. Maybe I'll start a new video. I don't know. I may have to do something.
Good afternoon, I am back from a little break from posting on YouTube, and we are kicking off my return to making videos with an article that Jeremy Clarkson wrote that was published just yesterday in the Sunday Times. It is titled, Jeremy Clarkson, the UK's new farming policy is just as bad as Brexit. In italics, red tape, eco-lunacy, and barely a mention of food. It's a mess, and I'm not surprised. So, here we have an article written by Jeremy Clarkson, car guy and now farmer. It seems to me like in his old age, he's chilled out quite a lot.
Up on the screen, it's Jordan Peterson's series, part 116, 116.
With the stuff that he's doing.
Digital collection with EMNC from the cloud level.
And he's just happy to be on his farm. Nothing wrong with that at all. But I have been waiting for the moment where Jeremy Clarkson, as a media profile, as a person with a huge potential reach of people, starts to talk about what is going on in farming. And it seems to me like he's starting to do just that. Now, as you know, you've probably seen my videos before. I've talked about raw milk, I've talked a little bit about farming, and I've always said I've got more coming on farming. I'm going to dip my toe into it with Jeremy Clarkson's article, and then we're going to go speak to some farmers in North and South Wales about what's actually going on. So what's Jeremy Clarkson saying in this piece from Sunday? Well, he starts with, just before Britain freed...
So I gave up on the Canadian prepper for the same reason I'm giving up on Clayton Morris and them guys. I'm still deciding on Rising. I'm still watching and listening to them. I like Rising. They're like in between. They're not too far left. They're not too progressive. They're not too far right. They're trying to be middle, but I just hope that I don't catch them just trying to distract me. But they seem pretty good. And then, so I'm done with Canadian Prepper now because he had the guy from NASA. So he's doing space alien shit and he's doing shovel commercials and stuff. So fuck that. I'm not interested.
Freed itself from the EU, Boris Johnson appeared at a cattle market and with much gusto and enthusiasm told farmers they'd have nothing to worry about. So basically he's saying that, you know, remember the whole Brexit thing, money on the side of the bus, all of that rubbish. He said to the farmers, everything's going to be fine. Clarkson goes on to say that he used to get a subsidy of £83,000 from the EU, that dropped to £73,000 in 2021, so 10 grand less. And then in 2023, so this year, it's going to drop to £48,000. And it will keep dropping until 2028, when he'll get nothing. So from £83,000 from the EU down to nothing is quite a big deal. He goes on, I'd then be in a free market, which is fine, but I'd be competing with foreign farmers who would still be getting a leg up from their governments. So no, that's not fine at all. Obviously, how can you as a British farmer compete with no subsidies against the European farmers who are getting the help from their government? And I've never understood the whole farming subsidy thing, because I come from a traditional world where you make a product and you sell the product for more than you made the product for. The basic rules of traditional capitalism. But in farming, it seems like it's completely different. The government will pay you to leave one field empty, and your milk goes to a supermarket where you have to pay to put it in the supermarket, and then they rob you anyway. Farming doesn't seem to make any sense to me. So perhaps I'll get to understand that a bit more when we go speak to these farmers in Wales. So, sure, you'd get your cheap food from abroad, but British farmers would be in the poorhouse, he says. And then in 2018, the government came up with the concept of public money for public goods. And he goes on and says, that sounds great, but what are public goods exactly? More footpaths. Farmers can't sell those, and nor would we get very far if we turned up at the market with some peat bogs and a 400-acre wetland habitat full of rare grasses and wading birds. So he goes on to explain that what the farming policies that are coming out of government seem to be is to push and promote wild areas, natural habitats, looking after things, instead of actually farming for food. So the government kept saying there was more detail coming on what this is all going to be about, and Clarkson even, sticks the knife in a little bit by saying he was expecting another HS2. I'll do a video on that one soon. Another Brexit, or another broken down aircraft carrier. So again, we're talking about gigantic projects that cost a lot of money, that make a lot of people rich, but that don't benefit the British public in any which way. HS2 is a whole conversation for another day. Brexit, I'm not even going to bother with. And the aircraft carrier thing, do we really need more aircraft carriers? I don't think we do. I know, you got the arms evangelists who'll be like, oh, we need strong Britain and all that stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. The governments will do what they want anyway, whether they've got the weapons or not. Another story for another day. So he goes on to say that he feels like his future as a farmer, and as an indirect result, our future, is in the hands of militant eco-lunatics who hate cows, and a government that doesn't exactly have a great track record, which is a pretty valid point. He goes on to say that his one basic payment, which remember I said about the 83,000 down to 73, down to 48, was now going to be replaced by 250 different schemes that he can sign up to, each one that will come with a raft of forms and code numbers. So there's a whole new bunch of schemes, again, which doesn't make any sense. And he goes on to say that there is a document an inch large, which explains what all of these schemes are. For example, if you're on the Isles of Scilly, you can get £279 a hectare for grazing cattle. You can get £10.38 if you make a breeding area for skylarks, £90 for shooting a deer, £50 for squirrels. I'm not sure if that's shooting them or looking after them. £5,500 for wasting a rhododendron bush. Not completely sure what that means. That maybe says a lot about my gardening skills. And you can get grants to maintain your dry walls. But what about food? He says. What about food? Which, after all, is the whole point. Well, I've waded through most of the document, but so far there's barely any mention of it. It's like they've said, food damages the environment, so let's not bother with it. Better the soil is used to store carbon, which means there'll be a soil police, and a woodland police, and a footpath police, and a curlew police. And you, the taxpayer, will have to pay for all of them. And what do I get? About half of what I got when we were in the EU. He goes on to say, why is any of this necessary? And the point that he makes at the end of the article is that as a farmer, and someone that loves his farm, as he quite clearly does, there's clear passion for the environment in what he's saying, which I appreciate is difficult for people that don't like Clarkson to understand. This car guy, this petrol head, is now clearly, loving the ground and the soil. But what he's saying is, He feels compelled to keep the environment around him in great order anyway, as any good farmer would. You want to look after your soil, you want to ensure your grounds are well kept, and you want to ensure that everything is running well. So why is the government replacing the grant scheme for farmers with new schemes to encourage the farmers to do things that they were already doing anyway, with the big elephant in the room being the total lack of motivation for farmers to produce food? So that's the article. I recommend you go and have a look for it. As I say, this is my first dip of my toes into farming because there's some very strange things going on in farming. For example, up until I think September or November of last year, you could have gone on the government website if you were a farmer and applied basically to be paid off to stop farming. There was a grant for farmers to retire and give up.
The thing is, David, this has been going on since for at least 40 years. At least 40. All this in both the United States, all over the earth for this matter, even India. I mean, look at when we play that Indian lady. She's great. She tells all the stories about that. I mean, you got farmers, uh, meat raisers, and ranches, and they're all committing suicide by the hundreds out there, farmers in India, because they're doing this in every country, including the United States and Britain.
So the government don't want farmers farming, and as Clarkson has now put out to a huge audience, they also don't want them producing food. Which is strange because this is starting to push.
This is very strange, and this is what I'm saying about this guy. He's really good. He's reading between the lines of everything. He reads off a bunch of stuff, and then when he gets to that part, he's like, no, this is crazy, you know?
Into the realms of Jeff Buys Cars content and the content of people like Neil Oliver, who've been saying that a planned food shortage is perhaps on the way and that they're going to use the farmers to do that. Now, the farmers in Holland are kicking up a right stink at the moment due to the government taking over their farms. And as I said earlier on, I've been waiting for the moment when Jeremy Clarkson starts talking about what's actually going on in terms of legislation. And it seems to me that he's now touching on some of this, so I'll be quite keen to see how this develops. Will he take it further? And will these famous farmers, like your Jeremy Clarksons and your Harry Metcalfs, you know, founder of Evo magazine, famous car guy, also has Harry's Farm on YouTube, has a farm not far from Jeremy Clarkson. At what point are these media personality and farmers going to start connecting the dots and start seeing things the way Neil Oliver, for example, sees things, and starts to see within the legislation a complete destruction of everything that farming stands for? So that's it from me really on this farming video. Just a quick one. I wanted to let you know about Jeremy Clarkson's article out there, and I wanted to just maybe connect Clarkson's article to some of the books that are on the back of the car there.
Book unforgettable travel experiences.
Freaking commercials.
Cities organisation that Sadiq Khan is the chair
This
of,
is the
the
good one.
flagship
This is
of,
the
the
good one.
leader of,
You know what? I'm going to start a new
wants
video
zero
with this
car
guy. I'll be
ownership
right
by
back.
2030. So our
This
Tory
is- yeah,
government
this
right
is-
now
this-
is saying, Sadiq Khan, we think you need to have a proper...
I didn't catch his name in the last video, but he's really good. Jeff maybe is his name, because it's Jeff something cars. Jeff buys cars. Yeah, Jeff buys cars. He was an automotive guy, and he just started noticing everything going wrong all around him, and he's pointing it out and made a YouTube channel. I was saying at the beginning of the video, it's just amazing to me is because I wasn't being allowed to find anybody like this. These are not the references I was being given. Now, I know they changed did some updating at YouTube, but still, that still doesn't explain it, you know? So I'm curious to see what that's all about. I'm going to come over here and see how blurry this all is. I'm at it. Yeah, let's see. Very interesting. Well, maybe I'll play a few minutes of it and then... No, I gotta restart the video. Alright, I'll be back.